Can't believe I'm doing it again. Wasn't sure if I was gonna or not gonna today, but here I am doing it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm trying to set a mood. Trying to set a mood for myself. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. But I had a thought. And the nows of today collapsed upon a moment. And that was it. Before I get to the thought, I'm trying to reset. I'm trying to retune. I'm trying to retune. It got really out of whack in the last week and a half. I kept going, still doing my work, so to speak, but and I'm a little more in whack. The thought I had was, there's no such thing as a lone wolf. Why does the caged bird sing? Why does the lone wolf howl at the moon? Why? Why are the bats dying from white nose syndrome? Why is the world shut down right now? Because of COVID-19 that doesn't kill as many people as starvation. Starvation threatened Starvation doesn't threaten the markets. Starvation doesn't threaten money. Starvation doesn't threaten monetarism as we know it. COVID-19 threatens the market because it instills fear in old white people with lots of money in the stock market where their retirement funds are. And of course, we associate the stock market with New York City and the stock exchange, as well as NASDAQ. Rarely do we associate the stock market with where most people have their retirement money, which is in mutual funds, used to be bonds. But increasingly it's mutual funds. And the mutual fund capital of the world is Boston. The Boston market. And of course there is that lovely mall enclosure. That very Roman Greek Greek-esque temple to consumerism and commercialism with a delicious food court, most of which I can't eat from now, but as a youngster, the few times I went there on field trips, the money I brought, mostly I spent at the food court, because I was a fat kid. With the big old Boston Bank right at the end. Then of course there was that chain of Boston Market chicken, the spicketed chickens. COVID-19 threatens the markets because it threatens most the people who have the most money in the markets. Starvation does not threaten the markets because it threatens the people the most whose existence threatens the markets. The markets as they operate now benefiting the best, not the best, but the markets now benefit those who have, the haves and the have-nots. So the people who die of starvation every day, last figure I saw was 8,000 people a day, forever. I mean, a long time, you know. Their lives aren't threatened. By COVID as much as starvation. It's starvation, man. In a world that throws away its food. Then we think, oh well, there's too many people, but we know that the way to decrease, people, because all these Malthusians talk about there's too many people, we got to decrease the population. And the science shows that the best way to quote unquote decrease excesses in population is by giving people money, resources, food, nutrition, health. Why? Why is that the case? People talk about this and that, about spreading your genes, how that's the most important thing. It's not the most important thing. It's the most important thing of the dark side of free will. It's the most important thing of God's bad dream. It's the escape hatch. Reproduction is the escape hatch, so to speak. God's reproduction, or the reproduction, that urge, that there's always the urge to reproduce, sure, but that gotta reproduce urge, where does that come from inside of us? Where does lust come from? Because we know we're going to get that gratification, because we want that physical imbuement of gratification, that but we also want that touch. And when the needs of the gut, and when the needs of the mind, and when the needs of the heart aren't met, never mind the high mind, what else is left? Once one has become a bad idea, when I am a bad idea, I look to escape. Not just release. Escape. It's the ultimate escapism. That's not what all reproduction is. And I wouldn't even say it's a vast majority of reproduction. But that is a key aspect of the failure of free will and the failure of eros. EROS. Not unrelated to ARROWS. Am I recording? I always forget because I do shit bad. I always forget things. Alright. Subject. What am I talking about? I'm off track. There's no such thing as a lone wolf. Game theory is free will. It's a little bit like Gödel's incompleteness theorem, so far as I don't understand it. I don't understand anything. But in some sense, it applies across the board. Also, I don't believe in Girl's incompleteness theorem, because I do believe there is a complete system that even describes itself, that excludes nothing. I do believe in that. Here. You know? I don't know it. Have I glimpsed it? I'm not sure, to be honest. But I have glimpsed at things that vie for contendership. I have seen things that I feel pretty certain would convince many that they are that. If we were to peer, please forgive the metaphor, never mind the object. If we were to peer at the devil, would we be reasonable enough to know that it wasn't God? There's no such thing as a lone wolf. And I say that as someone who stays away from the crowd. I'm barely aware of what's going on in the world right now. I'm working off on some back road in this second house of some super rich dude. Super rich to me. Might not be super rich compared to the multi-billionaires, mega billionaires, or trillionaires, but he's rich to me, and to a lot of the rich people I work for, he'd be rich. And he's a wicked nice guy to me. Sometimes he kind of pisses me off a little. But I still think I'm an overpaid painter, but I make shy of $20 an hour. And his property I work on, which is one of his many houses, is worth somewhere in the $10 to $15 million range. And I never even knew that kind of shit was around here till I started being a painter. I drive by all the regular roads and everything's all regular. All that shit's up in the hills. I'm know, I had a point to that. Can't remember now. Markets. Monetism. There are no lone wolves, right? I seclude myself. I don't know what's going on in the world. I've been out working on this place. He was there for a few days. Now he's not, so I'm just, like today I was there by myself, do whatever I want, just try to keep up his house. There's houses, garages. It's kind of a McMansion, but it's pretty nice. He probably spends more on his lawn care in a year than I made in my life. But anyway, that dude, he made money. I guess I won't say too much, but he made money making parts for military helicopters. Scuttlebutt on the street is he went to a jail for a couple years for embezzlement or something. I don't really know. But he made his millions, billions, whatever he's got, off parts for military helicopters. And I'm making money off that. So I'm in it, just like you, just like the markets. We're all in this war. In a sense, there's no such thing as indirect. Everything is direct. Classicism and causality have been derided because of what has been labeled non-causal. But that's a misclassification of unidentified causality. Got to redirect myself. There are no lone wolves. No no Nobel Prizes, this, that, whatever. Fields medals. First place trophies. there's no lone wolf. Yet, individually we make achievements, granted. They always use Michael Phelps as an example of like someone who was built to swim, the perfect body for the sport. That doesn't negate the dedication it takes to get there. So, like Michael Phelps, even though he stood out as an Olympic swimmer, granted he had the quote-unquote perfect body genetically to do what he did. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, that does not discount the fact that he put tremendous work into being that which he is, which he was, which he is. Might he have been many other things? Sure. But in a sense, and I don't mean this exactly, but it's a good point, you know, like, and like some people just praise him for being the best, like he's the best, he worked the hardest, he's the best. Other people deride him and say, oh well, he was built genetically perfect to be that thing. But another way of looking at it, and I'm not even saying this is a correct way, but it's a more correct way to look at it, is he was imbued with properties. And he, you know, people might say he exploited those properties. But what did he do? He maximized what he was. He didn't try, like, he would have been a bad candidate for the Navy. He would have been a bad, you know, he would have had a hard time on a submarine because of the short ceilings. Or an old school, the USS Constitution. You know, if you were on the USS Constitution, he would have been a bad sailor because he would have had to walk like this all the time. He would have had back problems. Now, okay, yeah, so he might have been a good Navy SEAL because he would do this or that, but then again, you got to ride into things and this and that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he was a good swimmer, but he wouldn't have been good in the Navy 300 years ago, 200 years ago, 250 years ago, you know? Which is kind of weird. A little bit of a fine line. And not that many people, like, go into swimming. Like, not that many people go into swimming, but he did. So, what he was built for, or one of the things he was built for, existed. Somehow, as a young person, his intuition brought him there. And he gave everything, obviously. And he became what he was meant to be. At least, at the very least, strongly metaphorically. So metaphoric that if it's not just metaphoric, you know, because then, well, what's an Olympic medal? What's that mean? Blah, blah, blah. But, you know, he captivated and inspired the world. Just like Mary Lou Retton. who I've said before, 1984, George Orwell. But we can rebrand Orwell's 84. I mean, George Orwell's 1984 was a warning. Shit's bad in the world, but it's not that bad all over the world. It's mostly better than that. It's mostly better than Orwell's 84. In 1984, the world was mostly, and when I say mostly, I mean 51% better. Maybe 60%, maybe 70%. But it was better than Orwell's 1984, mostly. But where it was worse, it was a lot worse. And it's still worse. What am I doing on time? Doing all right. There's no such thing as lone wolves. There's no such thing as lone wolves. Asceticism is not a natural state of a human being, but it is a necessary state. It is a response to the failure of free will. I've gone over that before. I'll leave that alone for the moment. That's just a little nugget for those who haven't seen what else I've said. There are no lone wolves. Why are wolves so vicious and dogs so loving? Aside from domestication, my understanding is the longest living dog was a vegan. That's my understanding. The longest living dog didn't eat meat. And dogs in the wild viciously kill even other dogs. COVID-19 threatens the markets. Starvation does not. The markets misidentified value. Though value exists. It's not our job to revalue all values, but it's our job to revalue a lot of them. Upheaval Upheaval is sweeping across the world. Publics are erupting. There's I'll call it a market pandemic. Because the increase in deaths barely touches the death rate that already exists. And never mind all the other because there are market commodities that kill more people than COVID-19. There are things that the market values that kills more people than COVID-19. And there are things that the markets don't value. People that are killed by not being valued by the market. I'll go ahead and say it. Andrew Yang, he's like the one dude, no, not the one dude, but he's the most prevalent dude who talks about redefining the markets, essentially. That's like, because there's a misery index, and he talks about like a health index or a happiness index and so on. I've often thought of a happy birthday index, because even though like Asian cultures tend to be more pitch perfect in their linguistics, like different people across a country will pronounce a word with the same pitch, whereas that's less apt to happen in America. But there's a few things I feel like we all sing happy birthday in the same, roughly within the same key. People start singing happy birthday and it kind of always comes out the same. They start singing it all together. Like everybody's always in the same key when they sing happy birthday. It just happens. Part of that is because when we hear that sung to us on our birthday, we feel important. That moment is etched in our mind as a child, even pre-memory. Before I can remember, that song was etched in my mind. And in some way, I must have been stunned by like, what is this? I am being praised. And I give, though I've not given, like in some sense I give a lot of praise to the Jehovah's Witnesses for their dedication to going door to door to humbly offer their truth. But I will say And I don't know enough about them. But I will say that what I've heard is that they don't celebrate this or that holiday because better the day you die than the day you're born. Like, two things to say about that. One, every day is a holiday, though I recognize the significance of certain days. I recognize that. But every day is a holiday, a holy day. That's one thing. The other thing is, so far as better the day you die than the day you're born, you can't die if you ain't born. So the day you're born's pretty fucking important. In a sense, that's the day you're recognized as a god, as equal to everyone else who has a birthday. So it is important. But anyway, yeah, happy birthday index. Now we have the technology where if we randomly selected the population, every day, if every day there was a poll of 20,000 people randomly singing happy birthday, and all of that data was crunched together, being as though we normally sing that more or less within the same key, by averaging out that key and figuring out its exact chord, so to speak, its exact scale, so to speak, the variations on it, so to speak, its amplitudes, its resonance, its frequencies from that sample, we could correlate that to public health. The Happy Birthday Index. Because how we feel is exposed through our voice. If the song tended flat, if the song tended sharp, if it tended minor, if it tended major, that would be very telling. The Happy Birthday Index, the Frosty the Snowman Index. There are no lone wolves, but, and I took a communications course where it was said that you should never say but. You should say, I like your idea because my concern is. I like your idea because blah, blah, blah. My concern is blah, blah, blah. And they said you should never say but because it's when you say but, you put someone down. You discount someone else when you're talking to them and you use the word but. But that's the way we're taught to talk. Not all buts are the same, and you know that if you go around looking at butts. Every butt's different. Sometimes you could say but, and it's not discounting someone's idea. Because it's all in the tone of what you say. I like your you can go by the letter of the law or the spirit of the law. I like your idea because you obviously put some thought into it. My concern is that, obviously that's going to come across different than hey man, that's a great idea, but I was just thinking that maybe the spirit of the law trumps the letter of the law. Now, there was a day not long ago when Trump meant the Trump card, where Trump meant like you win something, you overdo something. Now Trump means Donald Trump, period. And of course, part of the reason why he gained his Trump empire was because he had the name Trump, and he capitalized on what he had. Alright, one more time check. No, I'll get to it. COVID-19 threatens the markets. But people with lots of money are the ones who have been least hurt. The people who have some money, who's out in the streets? Who's going crazy? Now, I know some of the people in the streets are operatives, and the rest are people who are pissed, as well as they should be. Most of the people who aren't in the streets are upper middle class with lots of assets, or enough assets. And we shouldn't criticize all of the market, because some of the things that value is attributed to do possess value. But there are many things that value is not, like monetary value is not attributed to, that have immense value. My suggestion, my conviction, is that we focus our efforts, if we're pissed and we're weak and we're at the bottom, we're probably not at the bottom. I feel at the bottom a lot, and I get really, really mad and sad. I don't make videos those days because I'm too busy yelling at my walls, yelling at the gods, like a deranged, mad, crazy schizophrenic. I'm also yelling at the telepaths who I know can hear me. Which sounds crazy, but it's not. It's true. There is no privacy. Not really. There's privacy between those of us there's privacy between those of us who don't see. I don't see, but I know I'm seen. It's an uncomfortable position and hard to deal with. And when I say hard, I mean crushing. But it must be dealt with. And it must be gone all the way through. There is no, I shouldn't say there's no solution to it. There's one solution to it. We're all worried about COVID-19, about this war, about that war, about petrochemicals, about melting of the ice caps, about whales washing up on beaches. I mean, all very serious problems. But if we don't take care of our own first, which sounds, a lot of people, because there's so many people who are like, humans are the enemy of the world. The world will prevail. Never mind the world, but the cosmos. Never mind the cosmos, but the universe. Never mind the universe, but God. Never mind God, but the organizing principle which allows God. It's, because think of this. We think we're not the center of existence, right? Because there are those who are like, we are the center of everything. We are the most important thing. We have dominion. Therefore, we can do whatever the fuck we want. Greed is good. Might makes right. And on the other hand, we have humans are scum. Humans are destroying the world. Let the next stage of evolution take over. Or, cull the population. Population control. Thurston Veblen, theory of the leisure class. Conspicuous consumption. Feudalism. Whatever. But on the one side, you think like God, people, everything else. And then on the other side, you think there is no God. We're the scum that's destroying Mother Earth. Because so many, because there really is. It's like so many atheists who like don't believe in God. Worship a living earth. It's like people are afraid that we have the power to destroy the earth in a godless cosmos. It's like, doesn't that put us right back at the center of the cosmos? Doesn't that put us right back at the center of God? There is no central principle. We are an accident, a miraculous accident. There is no God. Yet we have the power, because when people think of destroying the earth or that we're so bad or that there's too many people, what they're saying is we have the power, because even though we conceive of the world in like this huge cosmos, this miraculous accident, you're conceding to the point that basically when people are afraid that we're killing the world, what they're saying is we have the power to destroy existence. Let, let the next stage have its chance. The cosmos will decide that. It's up to us to decide if we're going to give ourselves a chance. We're the Omega. The eternal God. The eternal God is the Alpha and Omega. The God in time is the Alpha. We, the collective superconscious, are the Omega. If we don't make the right choices for the right reasons, we will wipe ourselves out. But the right choices aren't necessarily what we think. Still didn't get to where I was trying to get to. Better check my time. Starvation, 8,000 kids a day, or people, a lot of kids. Worldwide prostitution, slavery rings that exist today. Today. In some sense, well, one of the greatest innovators of technology has always been pornography, at least for the last few hundred years. The early adopters of new audio and visual immersive technologies has been pornography. And in that way, pornography has been a compassion. People talk about how it leads people down the wrong path. And I'm not saying it leads people down the right path, but what it does is it provides release to those who might otherwise have just went out and taken what they wanted. But we should remember that those who go out and do that are infected with a hurt. But one of the most lucrative businesses in the world, you know, and this is documented, is underground child prostitution. Minors, you know. There are women who are kidnapped into slavery to be part of harems for Middle Eastern oil tycoon royalty. Well documented. It's not even conspiracy theory stuff. I mean, it's out there. I'm not talking about anything that I haven't heard on NPR. The way, you know, if you're riding in the street, you may feel incredibly desperate, but you got enough food in your belly, you have enough resources to be mad. I get mad, and I riot in my house, yelling at the walls, to the people behind them, all over the world. So I get it, and I'm preaching to myself. I have the energy to be angry. If you're starving, you don't got that energy. The way we empower ourselves is by empowering each other. The way we empower each other and empower ourselves. Don't get me wrong, I think it's good that the world is challenging authority. Do I think many of its themes are misdirected? Yes. Do I think many of my themes are misdirected? Fucking ain't right, yeah. Most of them. But I'm deeply grateful. There's a few points I have correct. There's a few points I have right. Deeply grateful for those. We gain power by lifting up the weak. We're pointing to the top of an empty pyramid. There's nothing at the top. It's empty. They say they're going to replace the capstone. They're not. There is no capstone. The pyramid isn't primary. The tetrahedron's primary. The sphere is primary. The point is primary. We're yelling at a top that doesn't exist instead of lifting up that base. I guess that's another good metaphor. that base, that bottom, where all the people are, where most of the people, the lowest of the low, they're all at the bottom. And then those closer to the top feel a little safe. Where's that missing top? I've said it before, I'll say it again. There's the pyramid. No top. There's no top because the pyramid's in a sphere. And there's a pyramid down here, and there's a pyramid down there. They're both empty because there's tetrahedrons all around them. Talked about that before. But if we're just going to consider the pyramid, those ends at the extremities, we're going to bring those to the top. But not the top where the eye isn't. Tip top. If you have the power to protest and if you have the power to be angry, then you're not at the bottom. You're a couple rungs up. If this is the pyramid and this is the bottom, yeah, you might be down. You might be down pretty close to the bottom, but you ain't at the bottom. And if you ain't at the bottom, you can start lifting people up. Like in those cliffhanger movies, man, and all that stuff where you're reaching, people are, someone's holding on by a foot. They're holding on by a foot, and they're reaching down. Hanging someone just barely, and they lift them up. That's where we're at. And yeah, a lot of times, the bad guy goes over the cliff, right? I've seen it all a million times. The bad guy goes over the cliff. You think you lost your buddy, but they're barely hanging on. Grab them up. Sometimes you lose them. But if we're at the bottom, or what we think is the bottom, if you have power to be mad, if you have power to protest, you have power to lift someone up. And that's what we need to do. If most of the people are at the bottom, how do you help yourself? How do you help everybody? Well, the people just above you, they're still, if you're close to the bottom but not at the bottom, the people just above you that you're looking up towards, well, they're still mostly toward the bottom. The people they're looking up towards is still mostly toward the bottom. But if we adopt the idea that I'm going to stop, the only thing I got to say to the people above is lift those below. The only thing I got to say to me is lift those below. So when I see someone below, I lift them up. I don't say there's too many people. I don't say it's up to someone else. Granted, you can't do everything all the time. In some sense, the biggest thing you can do is just adopt the philosophy and let nature take its course. Adopt the philosophy. That no one is expendable. People are expended, people will continue to be expended, at least for now. But adopt the philosophy of, there's someone below me, and I need to lift them up. That's kind of the whole point of everything I do. I commit myself. I gotta check this. I've committed myself to this preposterous channel in the hopes that someday I achieve something worth viewing, worth seeing, worth knowing. It's a huge gamble. And the payoff will be huge. If I succeed. If I don't, I lose everything. You. The world. It's all about everybody. I'm not awake, but it's my mission to awaken. Weird, huh? I'm not awake, but I've seen some shit. So have you, right? Day to day, I feel awful about what I don't do and what I haven't done. About this charity I haven't given money to, about this bill or that bill I haven't paid, whatever. And I'm not saying I'm doing it right. I'm doing a lot wrong. A lot. But the thing that's keeping me alive right now that there's a fight. There is a fight. This is a war. That must be won. It's a war that's thousands of years old. And we have the opportunity now I'm not sure what now means. But when you are watching this, it's now. We have the opportunity to kill this dragon. That's not saying a greater dragon will not come, because one will. Eventually. But the dragon that stretches far back into prehistory. That has been the number one enemy it's in our sights. We need only the courage. And as I'm discovering that courage is a lot softer than I thought it was. A lot softer and still deadly serious. It's our job to help those who are in a diminutive position. That's how we lift ourselves up. And we need to stop eating animals. Any bodybuilder knows it's amino acids that build muscle. Amino acids, from that perspective, are the building block of muscle. We need to stop eating vertebrates immediately.